Well, Africa is a water insecure region. By that we mean that there's inadequate sources, inadequate access of water, inadequate quality, plus we are prone to droughts and floods. To be water insecure not only costs for human life and health, but also economies. And globally, we're looking at a figure of about $500 billion US. Along with that, we're also vulnerable to climate change. Climate change is happening. The African Ministers' Council on Water, along with Global Water Partnership as a partner to the African ministers, developed a program on water, climate and development, and it was really very strongly focused on trying to make nations on the continent become more climate resilient, but also address the basics of water insecurity to protect people as well as to strengthen economies. The program was generously supported by the Austrian, Danish and the British governments. There were 8 pilot countries across the continent. Mozambique was selected in the Southern African region because it's extremely vulnerable to extreme events, natural disasters, floods, droughts and cyclones. And this costs the economy, and there have been tragic cases of human life and damage to infrastructure in Mozambique from these events. Well, firstly, you have to consider the country's context, what's happening in terms of the development priorities that have been set, and in terms of which institutions are driving investment processes. And it was primarily to look at and consider national and regional development processes and how to incorporate investments in water insecurity and climate resilience. Understanding the environment, aligning and coordinating between the different institutions. Then we had to focus on institutional capacity development, improve the skills for investment planning and project preparation. And you do that through a partnership approach, partnership with all the relevant government institutions, coordinating and aligning that, and also bring in your strategic expat partners.
Implementation of the WACDEP program in Mozambique was essentially focused around the National Climate Change Response Strategy within the Ministry of Environment. This was done through the National Director for Water in coordination with the CONDES, which is the National Council for Sustainable Development within the Ministry of Environment. The main focus of the WACDEP program in Mozambique was centered around the capacity development program. The program was implemented through an innovative capacity development approach, designated Economics of Adaptation, Water Security and Climate Resilience, supported by the Climate Development Knowledge Network in Africa, CDKN, seeking to ensure that planners and policymakers had the capacity to introduce climate resilience related issues into the planning and development process, structures and procedures. The first step was to conduct a needs assessment and to understand development landscape, to identify critical sectors impacted by water insecurity and climate change. And this needs assessment also allowed us to identify the capacity gaps and needs to be addressed within the WACDEP program. The second step was to identify planners and technical officers from those critical sectors affected by water insecurity and climate change, which were further identified as being agriculture, local government, disaster management, district level, meteorology, environment, finance, national planning. The third step was to conduct the training, which comprised of 21 planners and 6 senior policymakers who attended the beginning and the end of the workshop to be aware of the issues deliberated on. The program was implemented over a period of 15 months through a series of workshops adapted to the local context, including mentoring, coaching, development of action planning, and alignment to the partners' institutions. The program was structured around the strategic framework for water security and climate resilience development, a document developed by African Union and African Ministers' Council on Water with support from GWP and CDKN. The first workshop was a startup workshop which involved getting to know each other and team building. Thereafter, the first workshop in itself was focused on understanding the problem. The second workshop involved identifying and appraising options and economic analysis. In the third workshop, we delivered solutions. The fourth workshop involved monitoring and moving forward. And the final workshop was a wrap-up session where we identified lessons learned and did a presentation of the projects. The mentoring and coaching was basically to ensure that training was aligned to the planner's institutional setup. And the action planning was to ensure that climate resilience and water security issues were integrated into institutional systems, procedures, and strategies. And Mozambique action planning was done through interdepartmental teams which developed project concept notes to be implemented in a cross-sectoral manner. The capacity development also had a world-recognized certification through United Nations Training and Research, UNITAR, and 17 out of 18 Mozambican participants took the online assessment and passed. The planners and technical officers from the water administrations, such as Arasul, Arcentro, Meteorology, INAM, Water Affairs, Disaster Management, Local Government, focused on action planning to conceptualize a project on urban water flood management in Mozambique. Through the partnership approach promoted by GWP, the planners worked together to develop a solid concept which spelled out the different institutional roles, clarified mandates, and identified the project promoter. The concept note added enormous value, resulting in it being submitted to a project preparation facility, the Africa Water Facility. The concept note was successful and we were able to secure funding around 2.1 million euros to implement an initiative on flood protection that was further developed for feasibility study, detailed design, and priority climate resilient infrastructure on urban sanitation, drainage, and solid waste management in Chimoio and Inhambane provinces.
The impact of the implementation of the priority investment is really improved livelihood conditions as well as climate change resilience. So you're looking at improved sanitation, protection against the floods, better drainage, and solid waste management. We're looking at a figure of about 30 million euro that Mozambique could secure to roll out the further implementation of the infrastructure and systems it needs. About 370,000 people, urban poor communities that would benefit directly. We can clearly see tremendous opportunities for upscaling the lessons and the approach that we learnt in Mozambique and rolled out in Mozambique for other countries in Africa.
Climate change, according to the projections, has no boundaries. It affects us all in all the sectors without discrimination. So there's a need to come together as one, and this network built through the implementation of the WACDEP program, I think it's something that needs to be used in the future.
It's a model that we can use to ensure that at the end of the day, through dedicated effort, through the mandated institutions, you're going to secure investments and funds to ensure that we are going to improve livelihoods, we are going to improve the health of the population, you're going to address those basic socio-economic conditions in a country for hundreds and thousands of people.